All right, I wanted to make a very informal video, kind of vlog style, I guess, about what I've been up to. You see this? That is a shop-bought CNC router, 5x10. The biggest thing I've ever had in my shop, the biggest piece of machinery I've ever had in my shop. Let me turn the camera around here and kind of show you what I got. So, when I purchased this thing, the spoil board was all jacked up. I mean, it was completely rough. As a matter of fact, I can show you, because I cut it off, just how bad it was. It looked kind of like this everywhere. And the previous owner had laminated 2 sheets of MDF together. They did not screw it together. They freaking laminated it together. So as you can imagine, it was super hard to remove from the bed. The way it attaches to the bed are these little rails here. And there's 1/2-inch bolts that are in that secure that down to the bed. So I had to remove that, and then I had to find somewhere that I could buy 5-foot by 10-foot MDF, which is hard to do. You cannot buy that at the big box stores, at least not in my area. I did find somewhere that's about a 45-minute-hour drive away from here that I was able to find it. 1-inch thick pieces is the only ones they had in stock, so I had to pay extra for those. Get them home, load them up in my truck, get them home, unload them. Very hard to do because they are very heavy, and I bought 2 sheets. So what I did was I laid the first sheet, I got the old stuff off, I laid the first sheet down. I went underneath the table and drilled up through the pre-drilled holes in these metal pieces into my MDF. And then I came back in and bolted it all down, had to get back under the table with an impact driver and secure all of those bolts up through the MDF. Then I had to recess each hole so that the second sheet of MDF would lay flat and not be resting on the bolt heads. So I did all that, got it all fastened down, and then this top sheet is kind of my true spoil board or waste board. And what I did with that is I just pre-drilled and screwed it down with screws. That way, and of course the screw heads are lower than the MDF, so if my bit goes through, I'm not going to hit any screws and damage my bit. So that was the first upgrade I did. The second thing I had to figure out was, well, let's back up. This could not go in my wood side of my shop. So if you're not familiar, my shop is divided in half with this wall. This is my woodworking side of the shop that you're used to seeing. And this is kind of the garage side. I have my lawnmower. This is where I normally do painting and stuff. Right now I have some miscellaneous tools. I'm trying to sell my old CNC router, of course my lawnmower, and then this massive bad boy here. This could not fit in the other side of my shop because I could not get it through the door. This thing I thought was aluminum extrusion channel. However, it's an older model and this is all angle iron. So it is very heavy. In fact, I can only lift it with a floor jack and dollies, and I have 2x4s under the bottom strut because that rail, if the machine's set on the floor, that rail is lower than my floor jack, so my floor jack can't slide underneath there, so I just have some riser blocks that act as spacers. Okay, so back to setting this thing up and getting it quote-unquote upgraded. I got the spoil board figured out. The next thing was how to figure out my dust collection. So you saw the wood shop side of my shop. My dust collector is actually on this side next to my air compressor because the noise is better to have it on this side with that wall dividing it. That wall is insulated because that side of my shop is climate controlled, this side is not. So I have my air compressor, my existing dust collection system, and this is kind of the separator system that this again comes in the wall from the wood shop side of my shop into that dust collector, and then originally it just went out through this pipe into my dust collector, and this side of that Y was capped off. The easiest thing that I came up with was to remove that cap, install a second hose that goes up, over, and to my new CNC. So that presented a whole new set of challenges. I had to get a couple couplings, find a dust hose long enough, and I installed valves here so that I can either shut off the wood shop side of my shop or my garage side for the CNC so that I have good suction, and then of course after it separates through there, it just comes into the dust collection bag here. Have all this figured out, and I know you haven't seen this before, but all this had shelving and crap and junk, so I had to remove all that. The next thing I had to do was upgrade the spindle. When I purchased this thing, it came with a regular 1.25 horsepower porta-cable router, and as you know, those are very loud. So I purchased a spindle directly from ShopBot that is much quieter and is 2.5 horsepower. So I am off from my full-time job for 2 weeks straight. I'm getting ready to go to Ireland, and I just took a couple weeks off before we go on our trip. With that said, I wanted to be able to use this time off from my job to be able to upgrade this thing. So instead of ordering the spindle and having ShopBot ship it to me, that would take 4 to 5 days. Much cheaper, but it could take 4 to 5 days. Instead of doing that, I flew to their office and picked it up. You might have seen on my other channel, I have a separate YouTube channel that I do a bunch of aviation related content, and I fly, I'm a private pilot and I fly on that channel. So I actually flew to their headquarters, which is in Durham, North Carolina. It's only about an hour flight from me here. I flew up there, picked up the spindle, all the necessary stuff that goes with that, brought it back. Again, that is not cheaper than them shipping it to me, but at least I was able to get it quicker. So I get the spindle back, and it comes with the spindle itself, of course, all the associated wiring, as well as the VFD control box and another, I think, power supply or converter box behind that. ShopBot pre-wired all the wiring inside of this, as well as the box behind it. They mounted these together. They did all that before I picked it up. So this power cord was just a whip that was hanging off of that, and then I had to, connect these wires to the spindle itself. So the next challenge in my shop is that I only have two 220 circuits in my shop. One of them runs to this side, the garage side, and one of them runs to the shop side. When I built my shop, I installed two 220 circuits, but I just capped them off. I didn't have any 220 tools that needed 220, so I just capped them off. A couple years ago, got a mini split installed on my shop side that takes 220, and the guy that wired it up asked me which 220 circuit would I like to use for the mini split, and I told him that I'm more likely to purchase a woodworking machine that takes 220 than something on my garage side. So I had him use the circuit that was on my shop side, not my garage side. I'm sorry, use the one that was on my garage side, not my shop side. By the way, that's Ranger. He's my 3-year-old full-blooded chocolate Labrador, full of energy, likes to bark at me. You can stop. So with that said, I did not have power ran to the 220 circuit on my garage side. It was a simple fix. I simply flipped the wires in the breaker panel. So currently I do not have a live 220 circuit on the shop side, just on the garage side. So once I had the power figured out in the breaker, I then had to figure it out internally in the garage side to run to the spindle. The whole reason I'm doing this is because the spindle is single phase 220. Over here is where I had a blank plate capped flush against the wall. I simply installed this junction box, which connects the existing wire that came out of the wall to a new wire that I purchased, and then I ran the new wire through this conduit. It goes up and over my cabinet, comes down along the wall, and then to that junction box. The purpose of that junction box is to connect the Romex wire that I purchased and ran through the conduit to the black wire that comes off the whip off of that box that came from ShopBot. So I got all that wired up, and my spindle works perfectly. And for reference, I'm assuming that many of you as a woodworker know how loud a router is. So I don't need to demonstrate that, but let me show you how quiet the spindle is. That's it. It sounds kind of like maybe a quiet or medium noised vacuum. Very quiet. Okay, so the spindle's wired up and the dust collection's figured out, at least running it to the machine. Then I had to figure out how I'm going to collect the dust at the source. So basically I just measured the outer diameter of the spindle and kind of created some plates here. Okay, so I did recess and install some magnets on each one of these brackets. The bottom one is removable, of course, so I can change the bit. The magnets are not strong enough. I've ordered new magnets, but for now I'll just have these clamps on here temporarily. The next thing that I upgraded, or I guess added, was just a permanent, quote-unquote permanent little set piece here. So this is just 1/2-inch plywood attached directly to my spoil board. So now I never have to reset my zero on the software. This point right here is automatically my zero every single time. And then if I change the bit, only thing I have to zero out is the Z axis. The X and Y are automatically going to be zeroed because that's what I used. Miscellaneous stuff. I also created some little hold down clamps. I have the Rockler quick connect vac system here so that I can undo that hose and reach across and vacuum the table off. I also have a shop vac that I keep stored under here for miscellaneous cleanup. As far as the machine itself, when I purchased it, it came with the ShopBot controller as well as a computer and 2 monitors. So I have created a little dual monitor setup here. I've CNC'd out this tray for my wrenches and bits to go on, calipers, you know, miscellaneous. I've got a USB hub for transferring files and flash drive type stuff. 2 different keypads. The reason is because one of them I have set up where it will step incrementally, and the other one is just a bulk jog or move controller. This ShopBot machine has dedicated proprietary ShopBot software, which is a little bit of a learning curve for me, and then I just ended up purchasing Vectric to use for my CAD CAM processor here. So again, I've created miscellaneous little tool holders, you know, random stuff that makes the efficiency a lot better on this machine. Okay, so I have ran a test cut with this, and I've created a cabinet. I use SketchUp to do the design, and then I use the Cabinet Sense plugin, and it creates blind dados and this. So I cut this entire cabinet out with the exception of the face frame on the new CNC. So I need to add some edge banding, and of course I've already added my face frame, but all of this has been cut out. It's hard to see, but it does use blind dados. Let me see if I can the CNC will cut out those blind dados. It will cut all the parts exactly precision cut to the right size. Everything's completely flush. It will even pre-drill your screw holes. If this was the very outside cabinet, I would need to add some sort of skin over top of that or come up with a different method. But for right now, if this is an interior cabinet and this is just a sample for my shop, I don't mind seeing the screw holes. That doesn't bother me. This isn't even going to be painted since this is just a test cabinet that's going to stay in my shop for now. So very long-winded, very scramble-minded for this video, all over the place, but I just wanted to share what's going on. I found a very good deal on a CNC. I took the opportunity, I bought it. I've put more money into it now just to get it kind of up and going. I'm not gonna get into the exact numbers, but I can tell you that all the money that I have into that CNC has added more value than what I have put into it. And I know for a fact that I can sell that for probably double what I have into it right now. That's how good of a deal I got. And that's not to brag, that's just to let you know that when you see people online spending money, I'm not made of money, but it was just a good deal, and I think it can make me more money than what I've put into it. Anyways, I know that's scatterbrained. I know that's very random, very long-winded of me. This is a very informal video. Hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to see me cut something specific or do something crazy with that machine, or simply just have suggestions of stuff that I need to do to fix and upgrade that machine, let me know down in the comments, and I'll talk to you later. Take care.